1. Many years ago, I was in tech support for a major software vendor. We had a cluster of products that all worked together with our backbone product. One day I received a call from sales folks. They have a customer who wants a meeting with someone who knows XYZ product. I'm the TS expert for this particular product, so of course they called me. Check schedules, and with my manager, yeah, I can do it on the day and date. This is the first time I've met a customer, so in the morning I'm dithering about how to dress. Full suit, just a button-down, tie. Finally I give up, jeans and a corp polo shirt. In the meeting room, waiting on the customer, is my boss, the director of TS, sales folks, their manager, and the director of sales. I'm feeling seriously underdressed, as even my boss is in a button-down and tie. A few minutes later, another salesperson shows in the customer team. Their guy in a suit ignores everyone else, comes straight to me. "You must be Otter, I'm Mr. Bigglesworth, director and sponsor of the project at our company." He then introduces the other two folks, one of who is the tech lead for the project. I guess I dressed appropriately, as the customer was able to pick the tech out of a room full of people. They explain their project and how they see our product fitting in. They start peppering me with questions. I'm asking them questions. The whiteboard fills with notes and diagrams. Sales folks offer to get us drinks. Our directors say they'll get the drinks. I found out later the director of sales didn't want his sales guys to miss anything. After 30 minutes, the sales folks' eyes have glazed over. Tech lead and I are way deep in how the product works. I ask my boss and director, is it okay to go this deep? Yes. We were completely redesigning the project. We paused. Tech lead looked at his director. Are you okay with what we're doing? He nods, so we keep going. Another hour later, their project is now centered around our product, not just using it. And the design hooks are there to use other products from us. A few weeks later, I receive a $1,000 bonus from the sales team. 6 months later, I was promoted, with this meeting cited as one of the reasons for the promotion. I ended up doing many technical things like this with customers and even ended up on the trade show circuit. 2. Years ago, I provided tech support for a company of cheap PC clones that are no longer available in the United States, but which are still sold in other parts of the world. Now, to say that many of the purchasers of these computers were first-time users is a vast understatement of the case. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's done this story before, but no he hasn't, it's just a similar intro, by the same author. Many of the best stories from this time come from the nexus between bad hardware design, cheap customer service solutions, and insanely novice users. So sit right back, and I'll tell you the tale of the mythical creature known as the User, and his capricious and unpredictable ways. First, the usual disclaimers. I am on a computer, so completely responsible for the formatting. English is both my first and third language, and my mother was a school teacher. So I am completely responsible for my use of grammar and spelling, although I do not care to hear about it if the spelling tends to vacillate between British and American standards, or the punctuation for that matter. Now get ready to hear about the facepalm smack heard around the call center. Today I have a call from a user experiencing a standard problem with her new computer. This computer had a bad driver at the time of build, and instead of re-imaging them with a good build with the correct drivers, the company has simply thrown a patch fix floppy in the box, and we routinely had to walk the user through the process of installing this to get their computers working properly. Just another sign that our company well and truly loves its customers. So I help my caller identify the floppy disk with the patch fix on it. I help her identify the floppy drive in her computer. I help her find the icons for her drives in the start folder. This was Windows 3.3, and we are ready to begin. So let's put the floppy disk in the drive. It's in. Okay, now find the floppy disk on the screen. I see it. Now put your mouse over the floppy disk and double click. Okay. Waiting. Waiting. So what happens? Nothing's happening. Okay, is the mouse over the floppy disk? Yes. And while the mouse is over the floppy disk, you double click. Yes. But it isn't popping up the DOS screen with the update? Nothing's happening. So we start all over again and walk it through again. Nothing's happening. And again, nothing's happening. I'm running out of ideas. So very slowly I step through the process again. And it is this time that I determine she is putting the floppy disk back in the drive. But I never told her to take it out. I ask her why she had taken the floppy disk out of the drive. So I can double-click on it. Well, at least now I know why it isn't working. She had been putting the floppy disk in the drive, locating the icon for it on the screen, pulling the floppy disk back out, placing it on the table, placing her mouse over it, and double-clicking. And strangely, nothing was happening after. So we tried it again, and this time using expressions like, place your mouse pointer over the picture of the floppy disk on the screen, and double-click. And yeah, the patch worked this time, and she was able to start using her computer properly. Maybe next time we should just start by lighting a black candle or something. 3. So for a bit of background, I'm a college student who works at our on-campus IT help desk. One of the things we directly interact with users for is password resets. On this particular day, a faculty member, not teaching staff, just a university employee, comes into the desk in person looking for help filling out the campus conflict of interest form. As a project for his internship with the IT department of our campus, one of our other student employees created an online web app for submitting COI forms, and this is the first semester it is being used. Anyways, this user apparently doesn't know his password because he almost never uses his university account. So naturally, we go through the process of a password reset. Being student employees, our policy is that we can only do student password resets. Staff password reset tickets can be created by us, but must be completed by network services. So we create a password reset ticket for the user. So here's how our exchange went, I'm paraphrasing. We'll get a ticket sent off to network services. We'll give you a call once your password is ready. What's your phone number? The user immediately rattles off 2 phone numbers like he's an auctioneer. My coworker had to ask him to repeat it about 5 times so he could pick out the numbers bit by bit, as the user says his numbers as fast as possible each time. Perfect. Someone will give you a call as soon as network services has reset your password. Well, I'll just come back in an hour, how's that? And he leaves. So an hour later, our user comes back, this time with me as our only employee currently at the IT desk. Here's your new password, I'll write it down on a sticky note for you. So this won't change my password, right? Because as it is, my phone, when I log in, shows those little stars and enters my password for me. He is describing an autofill. Well, yes, this does change your password, but, well, shoot, I don't want it to change my password. Inwardly, I'm thinking, if you don't know your password, how do you expect to log in if we don't give you a new password? You can always change your password once you're logged into anything you choose. So this changed my phone password, like for my bank and everything else? No. This only changed your password for university services. Wondering how a person could possibly think a student employee at their university's help desk has the power to change their banking password. Oh, okay, that's good. If it changed my other passwords, I'd have to go talk to Todd to have them fix my phone again. They do all of my technology stuff for me, so now, how do I do the conflict of interest form? Well, I don't have the link to the form handy, but when my coworker who made the form is at work later today, I'll get the link from him and email it to you so you can fill it out. Don't bother, I'm a technology virgin. I don't know what I'm doing. When does your coworker come in? 11 a.m. Great, I'll see you at 11 so you can walk me through it. So for a bit of context, this COI form is ridiculously easy to use. As long as you're logged in, it autofills your name and department. All you have to do is enter your birthday and phone number, I believe, don't quote me on that, and either check or uncheck boxes of different kinds of conflicts of interest you may or may not have. That's it. It's a perfect replica of the physical form that used to be used, but yet we've gotten tons of complaints that the new form is more complicated, because apparently online equals complicated, no exceptions. There have also been users who claim the form is broken because they ignore the note in the form that shows the exact format they need to have their phone number in for the form to be accepted. The user came back later and, in true technology virgin style, didn't know what my coworker meant when he asked him to scroll down on the page, and had to be shown the scroll wheel on the mouse. 4. I was working a help desk as a Tier 1 technician, and I was working from home because of the pandemic. I was employed at a managed services provider that had multiple clients across various industries. For some clients, when their users called in, I was a glorified ticket maker, and for others, I followed a simple checklist providing basic troubleshooting steps. As for our major clients, I followed an extensive list. That usually involved holding their user's hand through step-by-step instruction document, or walking them through hardware checks. Frequently, I would remote in to check and fix various settings, collect logs and screenshots, contact vendors, and running scripts, patches, etc. Slap a band-aid on it to get the system and/or the person working. That was our supreme goal, otherwise the issue or issues are escalated to Tier 2, which was the client's corporate and internal IT. Overall, this was not very fulfilling because I always wanted to do more and spend more time on things. However, at least I got a lot of exposure as well as strengthened and sometimes flexed my customer service skills. Anyways, the other techs and I would often reminisce on what collective trope a major client's users were spitting at us. Generally, they said these things out of spite. One that we frequently suffered when informing users the issue had to be escalated, they would exclaim, "The previous technician knew what they were doing," followed by some flavor of, "How come they were able to fix this but not you?" "Can I talk to the previous technician?" "Or talk to your boss," and so much more. For your context, at the time of this story, I had been at this organization for about a year, and was well acquainted with much of anything. Things clicked and I was in my stride. Irate, insulting, and incorrigible callers no longer negatively affected my mood or energy. I was a Zen professional. So I was at the tail end of my shift sometime in the evening when a user called in about some issue. A polite elderly gentleman who had troubles with some of the company's proprietary software. After remoting in and investigating, it appeared to be something I had dealt with before. But whatever the case, I had to soldier on. Within the realm of what I was allowed to do, I exhausted all efforts. I let the user know I had to escalate the issue to Tier 2. Unsurprisingly, the user started to berate me. "The previous technician knew what they were doing?" Then followed up about how they talked to a technician several hours ago that was an expert and quickly resolved their earlier issues. My eyes widened as I recognized that I had talked to this user earlier. I checked the call history, and I was the only other person they spoke with that day. I felt a rush of excitement, but I quickly contained myself. I verbally acknowledged and let the user elaborate. It was back and forth, scorning me and praising the previous technician. They condemned me further, going so far as to accuse me of being new. All the while, unbeknownst to the user praising me, stating the previous technician demonstrated expert skills and was knowledgeable in all things IT and customer service. The user's insolence probably took up a good 5 minutes. Plenty of rope had been laid out at this point. I think there was a brief moment of silence indicating the user had run out of gas. It was a rock dropped in water. I can imagine the ripples of emotion develop on his face as I listened with glee, the audible stammers and fumbling of words over the phone, and his wife's sudden outburst of laughing as I responded. "Sir, that previous technician was me." There was another weak and helpless attempt or two to deflect. I quickly affirmed that I was a previous technician, going into further details of our earlier encounter, then once again informed them I was escalating the issue to Tier 2. The user meekly uttered an OK, and hung up the phone. 5. A friend of a friend had a skee-ball game they wanted me to try fixing for them. It was one of the first to have circuit boards, so I didn't really know what to expect. However, there is some good news. Schematics are available. The bad news is that the wiring to the bottom half is somewhat butchered and some of the connectors are cracked and would need replacement. After replacing the damaged power cord, I plugged it in, and it appears that the motherboard at least boots up. The screen animates in what I call a zeroing around pattern. I can see missing segments, but that may be an easy thing to fix. These older machines actually used incandescent bulbs behind the segments. But first, I need to find the wires for the coin switch, and see if the logic responds to that and starts the game. On the schematic, I find that the coin switches go to the 3-pin connector that has the color code white, red, and black. No problem. I find a handy little wire and stick it in between the red and black wires, and pop! The machine loses power. What? Well, darn. I guess I blew the fuse. So I take the fuse out, and fuck! The fuse is intact. Now I'm really getting that sinking feeling that I just made a very expensive and embarrassing mistake. The lights in the room are still on, so I don't think the fuse in the house blew, because most of the houses have the outlets and lights in a given room on the same circuit. However, where does this extension cord go exactly? I follow it to a power strip, which is receiving no power, even though the switch is on. I follow that to the outlet, and you guessed it. The GFCI is turned off. I press reset, and hallelujah, the game comes back on, completely unharmed. Re-examining the entire schematic before touching anything else, I figure out what I did. The ball release solenoid runs out of the high voltage AC from the wall, using a simple triac to turn it on. They used the same wire colors on the connectors for the ball release solenoid as they did for the coin switches. The ground wire was red instead of green, but white is still neutral and black is still live, so I had collected live directly to the ground. Thankfully, I didn't use a bare paperclip for that purpose, or I'd probably be dead. In the manufacturer's defense, the two connectors are far enough away from each other that the wires for the wrong one would be too short to actually plug them in together. So in the end, this was really my fault for not reading the entire schematic, or indeed the entire page of said schematic, before I started crossing wires. There had been times in the past where I had gone down the rabbit hole of tracing out every single line and trying to understand what everything meant, thus tripling the time it took me to repair something because I didn't see the forest through the trees. Example, missing a broken solder connection or obviously burned out transistor, connector that works if you push on it or whatever. So that is why I jumped at the opportunity to say, okay, I found what I'm looking for, let's try this. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Terrific Tales of Technology, episode 19. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe, because that is a good thing to do. It's not better than watching the video, but it does help other people find the video, so they'll watch it, then they'll like and subscribe, then more people will find it. You get the idea. Okay, where are we? This is Monday. I thought it was Tuesday for a second. I know it's Monday. And oh yes, as promised, I started yesterday, doing it today, making a proper announcement. I will start including PO Box info in the description of each videos. The PO Box itself is open for 6 months. I will pop the information in there, probably stopping it a few weeks prior to when the actual box itself runs out. So let me see, 6 months from now, I don't know the exact date, I'd have to work it out, but it's probably about April, I think, thereabouts. End of March, maybe, April. It's fine, I'll let you know closer to the time. So the information is in there. What is the actual address? Let's be helpful, Freezer, and look it up. So to make it easier for people. Okay, the address is, PO Box is Hellfreezer, PO Box 8785, Airdrie, ML6 1BU, because you should always be you, United Kingdom. And yes, that is my hometown. I was a bit surprised when I saw that. When I got the thing, there was 2 addresses. One had my actual address in it. The other one didn't have my address, but it had the hometown, but well, that's okay. You'd have to be well, quite dedicated of a stalker to stake out the PO Box on the off chance that I happen by. So I don't think there's any worries there. Okay, now recommendations for things not to send. Honestly, if you're someone who's been asking for a PO box and the stuff you want to send, whatever, it's all good. As I say, no people or pets. You keep those at home where it's safe. Perishables will probably be okay. Just be mindful of the expense you might incur sending something international, and as to whether or not it will survive the trip. Some things will, some things won't. Well, use your best judgment, whatever you think's best. I think there is a list of things which are legally prohibited in my country, but I don't think any of those are an issue. Let's have a look at the list. Things prohibited through royal. There we go. There we go. Prohibited and restricted items. Boink. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, well, no one's going to send me alcohol because I don't drink. Ammunition, that I would be upset if someone sent that. Balance boards, so I think basically hoverboards, electric scooters, anything with a battery of which has a bad reputation, I think. Anything with a battery, really. No batteries. CBD. Alright, so no pot brownies then. Christmas crackers. Well, please don't send me clinical and medical waste. Ew. Even if you don't like me, don't do that. DNA samples. Not even touching that one. Neither should you. Dry ice, electronic cigarettes. I think it's just basically things with batteries and explosive-y things. Lottery tickets? Why is that forbidden? That's weird. UK destinations allowed in mail. See restrictions, packaging guidelines. Foreign lottery tickets are prohibited. UK lottery tickets are allowed in domestic post. That's very weird. Okay, there's got to be a story behind that. This outro might take a while because I'm going through the thing. Let's see. Weapons. Well, anything's a weapon if you're determined. Sharp objects, fair enough. That makes sense. Kitchen utensils, gardening things. Well, I have ordered the kitchen utensils and they've been delivered to me, but okay. Radioactive materials. Yes. We don't no attempts to make me into a superhero, so no radioactive materials. Thank you. And samples. Prescription medicines, drugs. Okay, it's essentially just common sense, isn't it? Alright, there's information about perishable items. Yeah, essentially, these aren't saying these are all explicitly 100% forbidden, but there might be rules surrounding them. Perishable items should be able to withstand a journey of up to 48 hours, be properly sealed, like frozen water, dry ice, nothing like that. The sender's name and return address must be clearly visible on the outer packaging. Packages must be clearly labelled perishable. I mean, they're not really going to check, are they? But those are what the rules are. Must be packaged in a strong corrugated cardboard box. Okay, so again, just common sense, really. Okay, there's nothing too concerning there, is there, really? Human or animal ashes? Oh, dear. I'm not even, again, we're not touching that one. Alcohol. Alright, I think we'll wrap things up for there. We all get the idea of what, yes, okay. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.